As immigrants, one of the things that we aspire to achieve is financial freedom. We generally leave a different country to come into a new country and settle in and hopefully build wealth while we're in that country. We are seeking what they call the greener pastures. However, if you think about it, majority of us do not also understand the consequences of getting into some financial mistakes or financial debts. And because we grew up in a place where we are generally not accustomed to spending what we cannot afford or getting access to money that is not ours. So I'll give you an example. When I first moved here to the United States, I actually didn't really understand how the credit card system works or how the loan system work or how you can actually access these things and use them and of course, repay them for your own good. However, as time went on, I started to realize a pattern. Let's say you want to buy something at the grocery store. They tell you, oh yeah, you can use this credit card and you get 20% discount. And I'm like, no, I don't want to use a credit card because all I've heard about it is something terrible. And I do not want to get myself into trouble, something that I can't afford to pay back. That did cost me some money. That did cost me some time to understand. But eventually I got to understand how you can harness this credit system and use it to my benefit. If you think about it, for the first couple of years of settling in, you're trying to brush up your understanding of how the financial system in the new place operate so that you can take advantage of it. To give you a good example of what I'm talking about, let's assume that you have an 8,000 credit card debt at an 18% interest rate, which I'm being generous with that because we know that credit card rates, interest rates nowadays can range from 20s to like 30s. With that amount and that interest rate, if you made $200 payment monthly, it will take you about 5 years and 2 months to pay back the full amount plus the interest of around $4,308. Just looking at the picture, you can see that a third of that amount is actually interest. A third of the total amount paid back is interest. And this is exactly the kind of problem that we find ourselves in because we end up putting a lot of money given to the bank and we do not have anything left for ourselves. I mean, think about this. This is just one credit card. Assuming you have multiple credit cards or multiple loans, you pay back interest on these loans, and this is the cost of getting into some of this debt. The first type of debt that I'll mention is a credit card debt. But we also have mortgage debt, we have car loans, we have payday loans, we have 401k loans, we have student loans, and personal loans. The worst type of loan you can get into is called a payday loan. And these are type of loans that you can easily get from some stores that will promise that you get it money right now or things of that nature, and then they give you the money, but they charge you so much interest and fees in the process. And God forbid you cannot afford to pay back that loan in the time that you promised to pay it back, then this type of loans will just build and become ginormous over time. Why is it important to understand the consequences of some of this debt? The reason is because if we do not educate ourselves, then we would find ourselves pretty much working for the system instead of the system working for us. Our goal should always be to get informed enough to be able to use the system in our favor. So the first thing that you want to do is to come up with a plan. That is the first step we should take. If we come up with a plan of how we want to attack our debt. And when I mean a plan as to how we want to pay off the debt. Because without a plan, then there's nothing to really attack. There's no action that can follow. But with a plan, then you can pursue that with an action. An example of a good plan would be something that has a specific action that you want to take, a specific time that to take you to achieve that plan that you've set out. And of course, you would have to have the means, right? There has to be the means to be able to execute the actions. The first action here is do not get into more debt. You don't want to get into more debt. That's just common sense. If you already have some debt that you want to get rid of, then make sure that you do not accumulate more of it. The second thing that I would recommend is sell something. If you have some things that you don't really use or that is costing you money, then sell them, get rid of them. If you have a computer that you don't use as much, or you have a gadget, or you have a car, or it's whatever it may be, maybe get rid of it or buy something cheaper. All right, sell that thing that is costing you way more money and buy something cheaper, or if you don't need it, just get rid of it. The next step is lower your interest rate as much as possible. If you can, try to get your interest rates lowered. And this can be achieved by either consolidating your loan. So if you have maybe multiple credit cards, you can pretty much get a new card that has maybe 0% interest introductory rate, and then you consolidate that loan. There may be a fee for that, but at least overall, you have this lump sum that is now consolidated into one credit card that has no rate for maybe 0% for the first 24 months, something like that. The other option is talk with your lenders, get in touch with them, let them know what your situation is, and try to come up with a plan with them, because sometimes they may be able to work with you by either splitting up your payments or just maybe even lowering your rate, maybe cutting you a slack. Pretty much that is the point you're trying to establish here. The next step is, I would say maybe budgeting, but reduce your expenses, right? That is just common sense. You want to have more capital to deploy towards this debt. So that's what you want to achieve. So your goal is to reduce expenses so that you have more leftover that can go towards your debt. Then, of course, if possible, increase your income. If you can, speak with your boss. If you can, get a side also. If you can, sell something. It's a way to also increase your income, start a business, something that you know that won't cost you too much and won't put you into more debt. In order to raise your income, then do it. Now, there's so many methods of paying down this debt, but the two common methods are the snowball method and the irate method. With the snowball method, you are paying the smallest debt first. So let's assume that you have 3 credit cards, one with 500, one with, let's say, 1500, and another one with 3000. The goal with the snowball method is to pay the smallest card first. Now, you still have to make minimum payments on some of these cards. Now, it doesn't have to be a credit card. It could be personal loans. It could be car loans, whatever type of loan, but the approach will still work for any of them. So you pay the minimum payment on all these credit cards, and then you would then put whatever is left over after you've made the minimum payments. The excess of what is left over, you put it towards the smallest credit card. So let's say after paying the minimum payments of, let's say, $50 or $60 on all these credit cards, and you now have $200 left, you put that $200 towards the $500 debt that you have. The goal here is to get rid of the smallest one first, and then you move to the next one, smaller value credit card. In this case, in this example, it will be the 1500 one, and then you put the most of the money into that one as well while making minimum payments on the other last one. And then when that 1500 is paid off, then you move into the last one, and then you start putting all the money into that one. Now, the benefit of this snowball method is it will give you the ability to see progress much faster. Instead of making minimum payments on all of this over the course of time, by paying off one, you can see how it is motivational, and just it encourages you to put in more effort and get it off. Now, with the irate method, you're paying the card with the highest interest rate. Now, the benefit of this is to save you money over the course of time. So like the example I gave, let's say you have 3 credit cards, but one card has, let's say, 20%. The other card has a 15% interest rate, and the other card has 10% interest rate. Well, no matter the amount that is on all of these cards, if you're using the irate method, then the card that has 20% interest rate on it is the one that you want to attack the most first, so that over the course of time, you spend less in interest on the cards. Now, the goal of all of this at the end of the day, which I want to summarize here, is we want to make sure that when all of this debt is paid off, we then want to focus on building, because it's hard to build when you're paying a card, you're paying a 20% interest rate card or 30% interest rate card. It's hard to build anything. There's no business that you can really get into that will pay you 20% right away. But guess what? Every month, these credit cards will be guaranteed to cost you 20% in interest rate, in interest. So you want to make sure that you are able to attack this type of debt first, and then you can start to build once they are all settled. I hope that you have found some value in this. Please, if you're new here, do not forget to drop a like. Do not forget to subscribe. Do not forget to share this video with your friends and family members. I also want to encourage you to leave your comment section, to leave your comments below. I will respond to them when I can.